Okay, so thank you very much for having me today. It's such a great opportunity to talk about writing and ChatGPT. Um, so let's get started. I'm going to start with a joke. It's not going to be an earth-shattering joke. It's not necessarily very, very funny, but there is a point in it that I would like to take on during this presentation. So, a parent asks the teacher, saying, "Why is my daughter still making mistakes with the third person singular S?" The teacher says, "But I have told her about the rule." Now, for any teacher, saying that you cannot expect to just tell somebody about the rule, for example, third person singular S, and they will just know that rule and apply it correctly in their writing. It's not like this. You don't just tell somebody. There is a lot more to, especially grammar learning, whether this particular rule or something else, than just telling somebody about the rule. So, in 1996, there was this paper in a flagship journal, Language Learning, by John Truscott, the case against grammar correction in second language classes. And in this article, the author argued that correcting grammar, corrective feedback, especially for grammar, is ineffective. There are theoretical and practical reasons, and it is even harmful. So teachers need to avoid it. So can I check? Can you see my screen so far? Okay. Can you see the screenshot and everything before I
Yes, we
continue?
can. Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. So in this article, this author argued that correcting grammar in writing classes, not only is it ineffective but also harmful. And as you can imagine, in the following TESOL convention, there were debates about this paper, and some people supporting it, some people rebutting it, and this paper has caused a lot of controversy. So what is the argument? What led Truscott to make this bold argument when it comes to correcting grammar in language learning? Let's have a look at some of his points. So he said, when students are told not to write something that sounds right to them, students do not eagerly throw away their intuitions and do things the writer's way. It's not like a matter of just telling them and they will just take up this information and apply it in their writing. And in fact, many students go on writing as they did before, or they just avoid that structure if they can and just problem solved. And so the advice that does not accord with students' intuition, again, is not likely to be followed, at least not in the long term. There are some studies, yeah, they may follow your advice and do this grammatical structure in a certain way, but 2 weeks later, they will go back to their old habits. Also, research done in first and second language learning that correction had little or no effect on students' writing ability. We'll come back to this a bit later. Regardless of, who the students were, how many mistakes were correcting, whether a few mistakes or many mistakes, which type of mistakes are being corrected, how detailed is the feedback given, in what form it is presented. It's so depressing, So there the teacher is saying, what am I supposed to do in the language class if this is this is true? So, and then follow-up testing showed that if they appear to learn something correctly based on this feedback, in a matter of months, this learning will disappear, and again, students will go back following their old habits. So, okay, now somebody might say, this means that it might be ineffective. Why harmful? Harmful is a much stronger adjective. Why would you claim that correcting feedback, giving feedback on grammatical errors in writing is harmful? Well, first, I'm still following Truscott's arguments here before I move on to what other people said. It's unpleasant. Very few people will enjoy that, red ink all over their writing, that they spent so much time, writing that piece of, essay or whatever, and see all this ink all over the place. Also, it's very demanding for the teacher to give detailed feedback on grammar and explaining things. You can either do it superficially, like, subject-verb agreement, or, whatever. But if you want to explain each and every mistake, it's a lot of, burden on the teacher. And any writing teacher would know that. It also absorbs the time and energy in the writing class. So it takes time from focusing on something else, like organization, content, flow of ideas, organization, etc., etc. And eventually, students, when they know that they are going to be correcting on grammar, they tend to avoid complexity and just make simple sentences to make sure that they are writing, grammatically correct sentences. So the problem is the simplistic view of learning that is just a transfer of information. Okay, so there is a problem with possessives. You just add apostrophe S, you do it this way, you just tell the learner that you do it this way, and then this simplistic view of learning is problematic. Because learning grammar is a gradual process, not a sudden discovery. Oh, you add apostrophe S. I didn't know that. Next time I will do it. It's not as simple as this, okay? And these arguments do not apply to other areas in writing, like content organization, clarity, flow of ideas, etc., mechanics, etc., in writing. And content-oriented feedback, some research shows that it is superior. So these are, a summary of some of Truscott's arguments, but in a recent paper in one of the flagship journals, they did a meta-analysis on the effectiveness of corrective feedback, and the results show that written corrective feedback can lead to greater grammatical accuracy, contrary to the arguments we just saw. Now, let's look at the results. Let's look more closely. Before we take things at face value, things are always more complex than they appear at first. These are the results, a summary of the result. This is a funnel plot used in meta-analysis. And just briefly, this is 0 means no effect. And these two lines means that if something is outside these lines, they kind of an outliers, we need to be careful about them. We tend to focus on what's inside, and this is the average. So the average is kind of 0.5, which is a reasonably moderate effect size. But this middle line is still affected by these two kind of outlying studies. Each one is a study or a finding. And if we remove these two, this line will probably go a bit closer to 0. Okay. Now, let's look at Truscott's comments on this study. So, Truscott wrote a paper, the efficacy of written corrective feedback, a critique for meta-analysis. And he said 3 studies that carry most of the weight for the favorable conclusion are essentially the same experiment. So I'm going to go back. So these studies are kind of the same experiment anyway. So when you look at it this way and you look at this only, it becomes less impressive. An experiment which is too narrow and specialized to support any general conclusions on the value of correction anyway. And what about the other studies, moderately large effect sizes? In one of them, the effect disappeared within 2 weeks. That's not very impressive. And the other was not a study of second language learning anyway. So if we go back, even these two studies, there is a question mark. So if we exclude these and we look at this only, this line is probably going to come closer to 0 anyway. So that's not impressive if you look at the details. So I'm not saying you should, take this side or that side. The jury is still out. There is a lot of controversy. And if there is one thing you could learn from all this controversy, is that teaching grammar in writing class is not as straightforward as just explaining, giving them some feedback, and students will learn automatically. There's still debate going on. There are still meta-analyses appearing all the time. But one thing that we need to keep in mind, using Eysenck's words, is that a meta-analysis sometimes is a mass of reports, good, bad, and indifferent, are fed into the computer in the hope that people will cease caring about the quality of the material. So it's good to be skeptical than credulous. So let's look at some theoretical explanations as to why this might be the case. So this is an early study by Stephen Krashen about the monitor model in presented at the TESOL convention 77. And in this paper, he argued for something called the natural order. If you can see it here. In this small-scale study, he found that there is some sort of an order for grammatical development that second language learners go through, like copula, and then auxiliary, then irregular past, possessive pronouns. It's some kind of progression that's through. It's not haphazard. And in more recent formulations of this order, students start learning some simple ing, plural s, copula b, and then they go to auxiliaries and articles, and then they go to irregular verbs, and then more advanced stages. So let's look at this rough order more closely. And the order I'm going to present is probably going to ring true to many people who teach writing or grammar more generally. So generally in second language, English as a second language or foreign language learners first learn the ing form. It's very simple. They also learn the s, the plural s. It's very simple. They learn the prepositions. It's kind of basics. Then at some point they start to learn the past. Many students still use the present tense when they talk about the past. It's kind of more challenging. Then they start to learn irregular past and third person singular. This is very tricky, even for kind of advanced learners. And then the articles is very tricky. How many advanced learners miss these articles because it's kind of more difficult, relatively speaking, to the other ones. And possessives also. And then even more challenging, like past progressive and perfect aspect, and auxiliaries like would have and could have and other stuff. So for any language teacher, more or less this makes some sense. There are some grammatical structures that are relatively easy, and there are things that are harder. And if you look at any grammar textbook, you will see that these difficult constructions tend to be later in the course, while the simpler ones are presented earlier on. But as I said, this is very rough. And there are many factors that come to play. The age of the learner plays a role. Their first language will play a role. Their exposure, they might be exposed a lot to possessives, for example, and so they may master it more quickly. Learning rates vary. Some learners will speed through this, some learners will not. So learners have their own different developmental trajectories. It's non-linear. They may spend a long time on, say, stage 4. I'm calling it stage just, for demonstration, but it's more complex. It is very rough. I just emphasize this is very rough for demonstration purposes. Some students will spend more time on this. Some students will spend more time on that. There will be fluctuations and lapses. Somebody who you expect, at this stage will still happen to make mistakes with past tense. It's just, there are lapses. It's just very complex. So just telling somebody about the rule is a very simplistic way of teaching grammar. It's not about simple transfer. It's not about practice, because the learners may not be ready. It's not about the learner is lazy that they don't practice enough. It's not that they practice, but they are not practicing the right way. Maybe they are not ready. Their developmental trajectory, they should be focusing on something else. Now, this presents a problem. An average teacher will have 30 students in the class. And each of these students, and let me go back, and each of these students will be in a different stage in this trajectory. And each individual learner will need a different type of feedback. If it's ever going to be effective, it will need to be, tailored to this trajectory. So before you can give this feedback, you need to know the student and analyze their errors and their development in order to start thinking about how to give them this individualized feedback. And this is where artificial intelligence might help. So, as I said, your best bet, and feedback should be individualized. Just generic feedback, lecture style is not going to be of much help. And it should be suitable to the learner's level, whether they are ready to get this feedback. This is the best bet. If this doesn't work, I don't know what is. I don't know. Maybe we should, focus on something else, not the grammar feedback, corrective feedback. So, Edit GPT. This is a tool, a free tool that you can go to editgpt.app, click on get the extension, and you get it completely free. When you click on this, you go to get, and once you click get, it will become, you will find it in your Chrome browser or Edge browser or, whatever. You will find it there. Let's have a demonstration of this tool. So this is a recent paper that we wrote for language teaching recently. It's a prestigious journal written by 8 people. I think half of them are native speakers. And from different countries, there are, Saudi Arabia, UK, USA, some people have, Spanish background, Japanese background, Chinese background. It's just all over the place. They are here, wrote this paper, published in a prestigious journal. So you would think the writing should be, academic and reasonably good, at least, it's just an academic paper. So, I have to make sure to say that I picked this paper at random just for demonstration. There is nothing unusual about this paper. I just, looked at my profile, picked one and for demonstration. Nothing special about this paper. So what I did was I copied this paragraph, this introductory paragraph, and input it into ChatGPT and asked it to improve this paragraph. Remember, this is a published paragraph in a prestigious journal written by a bunch of academics. Let's see what ChatGPT said. So improve this text, mark your changes in bold. I want to see what changes you make. So this invited colloquium, etc., etc. Let's look at what it said. This invited colloquium, at first I was surprised, like, why did you make this bit bold? Is there, did we miss something in the paper? It's nothing. Why did you highlight this? I spent a few seconds going back and forth, wondering why ChatGPT highlighted this part. Again, think of yourself as a student, how confused you are going to be. Organized by Xiaofeng Li. I'm sure we didn't misspell the author's name, one of the author's name. I mean, Florida State University, USA. Florida State University, USA. Why did you highlight this part? If I was a student asking you to, improve my text and mark your changes in bold, I would be very confused and frustrated. And Matthew T. Pryor, Arizona State University, USA. Again, why are these false positives? ChatGPT, what's wrong with you? Took place on March 20th, 2023. So 20th of March, 2023. Okay, so you changed something. It's not really a mistake. That's more like an American style, but okay. At the annual meeting of the American Association, so many false positives. There's nothing here. And then when you go there and generate fresh insights to both practice and theory, you go here, generate new insights, okay, to provide a platform for to discuss. Sometimes when you go here, it's kind of not obvious what change was made. The pioneering academic venue brings me the topic of, because the longer you go, the lines are not aligned. So it kind of becomes difficult to tell which words are changed. Very frustrating, especially for language learners. So what change did you make? Why did you make it? So as you can see here, there is Edit GPT. This will show up. It's again free of charge. You can use it with ChatGPT 3.5, which is the free version also. Once you install the plugin in your browser, it will just appear here. There's nothing else to do. And once you click on this button, we find this. So it will automatically do this. It's a 17 if your passage has been changed, has been rewritten. This is the additional thing. So no false positives here. Now it tells you, okay, so 20th was changed to here. It's clear what change has been done. More straightforward. The colloquium was to foster innovation. Okay, it's kind of research. Enhance strengthening, methodological rigor, generate new, fresh insights for both practice and theory. Okay, both. Okay, nice to have both in this sentence. And so it removed this part, development. So, okay. Recognizing, this is a new word that we didn't use, that innovation in research takes various forms. The curriculum aimed to provide a platform for discussing. Okay, interesting. So it's very clear what changes have been made. So if you were a language learner now, you can tell immediately what changes have been made, which wasn't really obvious when you were using, let's say, the raw ChatGPT version without this plugin. And when you copy this text and paste it into Word, it's like track changes, literally track changes that you can click on something and accept or reject. Literally, just copy paste into Word, accept the changes you want to accept, reject the changes that you want to reject. Very simple. Let's have another demonstration. So this is a text An example, just
Dr.
to
Ali,
yes,
I'm really sorry. You have about 5 minutes
yeah,
left.
thank you. Yeah, 5 minutes is enough. Okay. Let's have a quick look at this paragraph written by a student. Yesterday I meet. So we have problem with past tense. My friend at the park, she bring. Again, we have a problem with past tense. Her dog, a big brown one, and we played. Okay, so it's kind of fluctuates. Sometimes past tense, sometimes present tense. Her dog ran. Again, run really fast, but I run faster. Again. So we played. Again, we have it's correct with the frisbee, and her dog catch it every time. I think it was a fun day. Then we decide to go to a ice cream. Again, we have problem with articles. Shop. I like the chocolate ice cream. She likes vanilla. We enjoyed our ice creams. After that, we go again. Problem to the library to retain John book. Again, we have a problem with possessives. But I forgot my book at home. John's book. Again, it's correct. Was really interesting. I think again we have a run-on sentence. I think he's a good writer, so I borrowed a book from the library, a book about English. Okay. Now again, for demonstration, I inputted this text into ChatGPT and gave it the same prompt. Proofread and improve this text. Mark your changes in bold. Yesterday I met. Okay, so it corrected the past tense. She brought. Okay, she brought. Then here, then we decided to go to an ice cream shop. Why did it make the ice cream shop in bold? A learner will be very confused here because this mistake was with the A. It should be an, but ChatGPT highlighted or marked in bold the wrong part of the sentence. Why did you highlight this part and not the an? It just doesn't make sense. Imagine how confused the language learner is going to be when they use ChatGPT. I like chocolate ice cream. Wow, what's wrong with chocolate ice cream? If we go to the text, the should be removed. It's not clear that the was removed. It's so confusing. So again, John's book was truly interesting. I believe the whole thing, John's book was really interesting. I think so. It made the whole thing in bold, which is again, why would John's book is right here? Okay, John's book, there's a possessive missing here, so you made it in bold. Why did you make John's book here in bold also? So different mistakes is overwhelming to the learner. Mistakes are always not always clear, especially when there is a word should be removed. Sometimes the whole sentence is made in bold. So it's not a learner or a user friendly. So let's look at edit GPT. So now meet, okay, it's clear, bring, decided to go to an ice cream. That's very clear. You have an ice cream shop. The chocolate ice cream, you remove the. It's very clear. John's book was truly interesting. You see, just truly interesting was changed. So you can decide whether you want to replace really with truly. Here, truly interesting. It was originally really interesting. So it's clear what change was made, and then you decide. So here, you can ask the learner to focus on one level. You can analyze the learner's trajectory and what level they are ready. And you ask them, you see here, rewrite this text as is. How clear do you want it to be? Correct only past tense errors. Let's imagine that the learner needs to develop their past tense problems only. It still corrected everything. Still corrected everything. Borrowed, it corrected the mechanics, it corrected the articles. So John's book, possessive. So still, even though you ask ChatGPT to correct only past tense errors, it still corrected everything. So still, you pick one stage in the developmental trajectory of the learner, and ask them to input their writing ChatGPT, and you ask them, ChatGPT is going to correct everything, ignore everything except for, say, articles or past tense, and they need exposure, go and read. If you think that writing can be improved by practicing writing and not exposure to read through reading, for example, it's a big mistake. Students need to read and exposure to the language in addition to practicing writing. So does this tool help learners? It's a very new tool. Is the effect long-term? I don't know. We need research. We need empirical research. So if you are interested in artificial intelligence and you're looking for a topic to do research on, this is a new tool. It's open, waiting for empirical research to be done. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. So I'm sure those who are interested in future collaboration or have further questions can capture the screen with the address, so you can contact Dr. Ali Al-Houri later. Dr. Ali, we don't have much time for questions. However, there is one from our audience. Dr. Ali Mitchell is asking if you have spotted many significant differences between ChatGPT and Grammarly in terms of the tool for editing writing.
This tool is kind of promoted as the next step after Grammarly. I think different people will have different styles, but it's, this, one of the advantages of these tools are they are free. You don't expect, teenage learners to afford, all of them to afford subscription to Grammarly or some other devices or subscriptions. But these are at least free tools. They are effective. And some people say it's even better than Grammarly, but it's an arms race. If today it's better than Grammarly, tomorrow Grammarly is going to improve. They are not going to sit and watch, of course. So it's an arms race. So you can't expect to predict what will happen in the future.
Would there be a situation where you would advise against using AI in writing? I mean, of course, the debate is about the credibility and the sense of ownership and agency in the writers if they rely on AI too much. Where would you draw the line?
Well, first, using ChatGPT to proofread your writing, especially if you are a learner, you want to learn, is perfectly fine. Even if you go to academic journals and you read their guidelines about the use of ChatGPT in academic writing, you have a long list of instructions at the end, and at the end they say all this doesn't apply to proofreading. It's proofreading. There is no no ownership or authorship or anything related to just proofreading or grammatical mistakes. This is the first part. The second part, things are going to evolve in the next, I don't know, decade or something. I think that writing first drafts is going to be kind of, old-fashioned, let's say. You get the first draft from AI, you just give it some points and you get it, and then you edit and customize the content, the text generated by ChatGPT. I think this is where we are going. Why people will start to wonder, why should I write 20-page essay from scratch when I can ask ChatGPT to provide it for me, then I edit it and change it the way I want it to be. So I think many people will tend to go to that direction in the future.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for this enlightening and timely, highly informative talk. Again, all the questions from the attendees can be forwarded to Dr. Ali Al-Houri personally. Thank you very much for being with us. We look forward to having you as part of our presenters group in our future symposia or conferences or webinars. Thank you very much.